Meet Saakwta, the total mess of a high school geek, awkward as hell with 0 girls to clap for him. And then, just when he thinks it can't get worse, his whole world flips when he bumps into a freaking bunny girl in the library. Turns out, she's Mai, a former actress and his senior, but here's the real twist, no one else can see her. One day, the high school boy jolted awake from his dream. Still tangled in the strange words of the mysterious girl who had asked him to kiss her, he grabbed his diary, flipping through the pages, only to realize he didn't remember writing a single word. His eyes landed on May 6th, where he read about meeting a wild rabbit senpai in the library. On that day, while searching for a book, the boy noticed a girl in a bunny costume casually strolling by. She strutted across the library like she was the main character, trying to get noticed, but everyone just ignored her. When she stood next to him, she realized he could actually see her. He immediately recognized her as his senior and introduced himself as Ezusegawa Saakwta. She introduced herself as Mai Sakurajima and told him to forget everything. But of course, he didn't take that offer. The next day, as Saakwta walked to school with his friend, he asked about his thoughts on bunny girls. His friend enthusiastically declared he would totally be down if he saw one. Saakwta then pointed at Mai, walking in her school uniform, and asked if he could see her. His friend confirmed he could see her just fine. Meanwhile, his friend's girlfriend yanked him away, glaring at Saakwta. But Saakwta didn't care and kept walking. On his way back home, he noticed a couple trying to sneak a photo of Mai, so he stepped in and gave them a little lecture. Mai thanked him, and they started heading home together. Saakwta was thrown off when Mai, a celebrity, remembered his name. She explained that she knew it from the hospitalization incident at their school. She showed him the articles where he'd been framed as a violent student, supposedly sending other kids to the hospital after a fight. Saakwta didn't bother arguing. He just shrugged it off, not wanting to dive deeper. What really stood out though was that he wasn't carrying a cell phone. When Mai asked about it, he casually said he tossed it into the sea. Saakwta then asked Mai to tell him about her story. She explained how she'd been a prominent actress for years, with everyone recognizing her wherever she went. But one day, when she went sightseeing alone, no one recognized her. Turns out, she'd become invisible to everyone. So she started dressing up as a bunny girl, wandering around different places to see who could still see her. Saakwta listened patiently, nodding along. When Mai asked if he believed her, he agreed, saying it was all due to adolescent syndrome that people just couldn't see her. Mai was surprised at how understanding he was. Saakwta then took her to his place, showing her the scar on his chest. He explained that the scar had appeared out of nowhere, leading to his hospitalization. Mai listened, piecing it together that it was actually him who had been hospitalized, not the kids in the article. When Saakwta's younger sister saw Mai, she freaked out and quietly left after greeting her. Saakwta showed Mai a picture of Kaede from when she was badly injured due to cyberbullying. He explained that the injuries had appeared out of nowhere, forcing her to be hospitalized. This was why he didn't use a smartphone and why his sister avoided the media to protect herself. Saakwta suggested Mai should go back to her showbiz life, thinking she missed it. Mai snapped, insisting she never said she wanted to go back to that world. The argument quickly escalated, and Mai furiously stormed out of his house. The next day at school, Saakwta noticed Mai was absent. He couldn't shake the feeling something was off, so he talked to his friend about the adolescent syndrome theory. She scoffed at it, saying she was firmly in the denial camp. Instead, she explained that she believed in measurement theory, which said that the human brain could only perceive things to a certain extent. Saakwta started to get the gist of why people couldn't see Mai anymore. He walked to a bakery, where he bought a custard bun for Mai and slowly made his way home. Suddenly, a thought hit him and he started to run. He dashed up to his apartment only to find Mai sitting outside, waiting patiently. He smirked, teasing her if she'd missed him. Mai smiled, taking the custard bun from him. Saakwta stood there for a moment, watching her as his mind raced. The diary, everything that had happened, everything he'd been through, had predicted all of it. Saakwta was on a mission to crack the adolescence theory, so he turned to his friend Futaba for answers. She hit him with quantum theory and explained the cat-in-the-box experiment. Through it, Saakwta got the idea. The human brain can handle 50-50 situations where someone can either be invisible or visible, depending on who's perceiving them. Saakwta and Mai spent more time together, even going grocery shopping. Mai casually mentioned that she was invisible to others, so she could do whatever she wanted in the store. Saakwta, still confused, asked about the carrot she was holding. Mai explained that the things she touched also turned invisible. To test it, Saakwta asked her to hold his hand to see if he'd vanish too. Instead of holding his hand, Mai suddenly wrapped herself around him in a tight hug. Saakwta yelped, and a person behind them noticed. It turned out Saakwta was immune to Mai's invisibility touch. On their walk back home that night, Saakwta pushed Mai to return to showbiz. Mai snapped, revealing how her mother had mistreated her. She told Saakwta how one day her mother took her to what she thought was a normal shoot, only to force her into a bikini model session. It was then that Mai realized her mother had been using her as a cash cow. After some persuasion, Mai softened a bit, realizing that deep down she still wanted to be part of showbiz. Saakwta told Mai about his run-in with a reporter who snapped pictures of his scars in exchange for info about her. Mai lost it, calling him a dumbass for such a reckless move. Fearing it might lead to people attacking his home and his sister, she immediately called the reporter, offering a bigger scoop if she kept the pictures under wraps. The reporter agreed, and Saakwta asked if Mai was seriously going to return to showbiz but under a new agency. Mai, with determination, decided she was done with her mother's agency for good. Saakwta walked her home, and Mai thanked him for the day. Before heading inside, she set a date with him, warning him not to be late. On the day of the date, Saakwta got all dressed up and headed to the train station to meet Mai. Along the way, he stumbled into a situation with a lost child, and as he helped her, he got caught up in even more trouble. After managing to sort it out, he rushed to the train station and found Mai. To his relief, Mai forgave him for being late, and they continued their date. During their time together, Saakwta told Mai about a girl from his school who had helped him when he was down. Mai got a little jealous, but Saakwta reassured her that he'd never seen the girl again, nor did anyone else. Mai took a deep breath and told him she had called her mother to meet her at the beach, where she would announce her decision to return to showbiz. Before Saakwta could respond, Mai's mother stormed up, fuming. But just as she approached Mai, something unexpected happened. Mai's mother walked right past her and went straight to Saakwta. Mai realized she had become invisible to her mother's eyes as well. Both Saakwta and Mai stood there, wide-eyed, as the truth sank in. After Mai's mom stormed off, Saakwta and Mai dashed through the city, asking everyone if they remembered her. No one had a clue. Even the reporter who'd made the deal with Mai had forgotten her. Mai started to unravel, but Saakwta wouldn't let her go. He suggested they travel to another city and try their luck there. He told Kaide he'd be away for a while to look after Mai. Strangely, even Kaide had no memory of Mai, but agreed with her brother's decision. On the journey, Mai asked if Saakwta still remembered her. He reassured her, promising he'd never forget her. They reached a new city and checked into a hotel. While Mai was in the bath, Saakwta called his friends. Thankfully, they still remembered her. Hope flickered in Saakwta's heart. That night, Mai and Saakwta shared a bed and talked about their plans to make the world remember her, no matter what it took. They both knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to fight for it. Mai woke up to find Saakwta wide awake, not a wink of sleep in him the whole night. They joked about how easily she could sleep, while Saakwta stayed hyper-aware of her every move. They checked out of the hotel, and as they walked down the street, no one could see Mai, despite her efforts to get their attention. Saakwta's heart ached for her, and he made a silent vow to find a solution. The next day at school, Saakwta met up with Futaba, who told him that everyone, except for the two of them, had forgotten about Mai. They realized that the reason they remembered her was because neither had slept the previous night. Determined, Saakwta made up his mind. He wouldn't sleep no matter what. He'd do anything to keep Mai in his memory. Futaba took him to her lab and explained the effects of adolescent syndrome on Mai. She revealed that Mai had accidentally brought the experimental conditions into the real world, making her invisible to everyone's memory. Sleep was a major factor, causing people to forget her every day. Futaba promised to study it further and help Saakwta keep his memory of Mai intact. Saakwta started using pills and medications to stay awake. When Kaide questioned him, he brushed it off, claiming it was for exam prep. But as days passed, Saakwta realized that even Futaba had forgotten Mai. His loneliness deepened as he became the only one left remembering her. He kept writing in his diary, recording his time with Mai, even as his exhaustion worsened. Dark circles formed under his eyes, and he resorted to extreme measures like poking himself to stay awake. Mai watched him silently, making a decision. She couldn't let him deteriorate further. Even Saakwta's friend noticed how zombie-like he was becoming. That day, Mai stayed at his house, offering to tutor him for exams. They studied for a while, but as Saakwta began to drift off, Mai held a bottle of sleeping pills in her hand. She showed gratitude for all his effort and with a heavy heart let him sleep. The next morning, Saakwta woke up, only to find that he'd forgotten everything about Mai. His diary was filled with blank pages where her name used to be. He went to school feeling oddly lighter, and his friend remarked that he looked much better. He felt someone staring at him. When he turned around, there was no one there. At school, Futaba handed Saakwta a page he'd written earlier, a small clue about Mai's existence. It sparked something in him, but he still couldn't remember her. During his last exam, memories of Mai suddenly flooded his mind. Without a second thought, he bolted from the classroom, determined to make everyone remember her. Sprinting across the school grounds, he started shouting his love for Mai, drawing the attention of every student and teacher. His desperate cries echoed through the campus until, finally, Mai became visible to everyone. She ran toward him and slapped him hard for his bold move. Saakwta and Mai became the center of everyone's attention. Mai seized the moment, publicly clearing Saakwta's name in the hospitalization incident. Students whispered, confirming that she had been acknowledged by them. Mai turned to Saakwta, demanding another confession. When he obliged, she challenged him to confess again in a month. If he could, she'd accept his proposal. Saakwta agreed, and soon, both of them were summoned by their teacher for disciplinary lessons from the committee. By the end of the day, Saakwta thanked Futaba for her theory on adolescent syndrome. It had not only helped him remember Mai, but it also made her visible to everyone again. On June 27th, Kaide was glued to the news about the Japanese football team winning the national tournament while Saakwta got ready for school. As he walked out the door, his thoughts lingered on the championship. At school, he ran into Kunimi and Futaba. Kunimi made a comment about his messy hair, but Saakwta just shrugged it off. During lunch, Saakwta joined Mai, who had brought him a homemade bento box. He was surprised at how she managed to make it all by herself. They dug into the meal, and in the middle of it, Saakwta confessed his love to her again. Mai, looking away, told him she would say yes when the time was right. She told him about an upcoming shooting gig where she'd be doing a kissing scene. Saakwta immediately objected, urging her to turn it down, but Mai insisted she would do the role. She revealed that her first kiss had been with Saakwta, but he couldn't remember it. Laughing, Mai promised to kiss him again, but instead of her lips, an egg roll found its way to his mouth. Saakwta, now slightly frustrated, warned her that if she kept rejecting him, he'd fall out of love. Mai smiled, promising she'd give him an answer soon. The day ended with Mai agreeing to date him, marking the start of their relationship. The next morning, Saakwta got ready for school, but Kaide was watching the same news about the Japanese football team winning nationals. He found it strange that the news, along with the date, seemed to be repeating. At school, he met up with Kunimi and Futaba, but their conversation followed the same pattern as the previous day. When Saakwta asked them about it, they insisted it was their first time talking about it. In class, Saakwta noticed that everything was the same as yesterday, even the cheesy jokes. He met up with Mai, and sure enough, their conversation replayed exactly as before. She agreed to go out with him again, and they resumed their newly started relationship. Saakwta stepped out of class and witnessed another love confession unfolding on the stairs. The shy girl asked for some time to think, and Saakwta watched, bored. The same pattern played out again the next day, June 27th, repeating itself in an endless loop. Frustrated, he realized he had been stuck. He talked to Futaba, who explained that the loop was caused by Laplace's demon, someone who behaved differently from the past 2 days. Saakwta set out to find this person. The cycle repeated, and after class, he headed to the room where he was supposed to ask Mai out. Inside, he spotted a girl hiding in the deck, Koga Tomoe. She was the Laplace's demon, not appearing in the previous cycles. She introduced herself, and when Saakwta asked if she had been stuck in the loop, she confirmed it. He told her about the situation, but she brushed him off, glued to her phone. When someone entered the room, Koga pulled him to hide in the desk. The boy who had confessed to her the day before checked the room but left when he didn't see her. Koga explained the situation. Her friend's love interest had confessed to her, causing confusion and distress. She didn't want anyone to find out, fearing they would ignore her. The two argued, and Koga ended up on top of Saakwta. The boy who had confessed earlier saw the scene and left, disappointed. Mai entered the classroom, witnessed the situation, and quietly left. Saakwta chased after her, but stopped when he realized the day would just repeat again, giving him a chance to fix things. The next day, June 28th, Saakwta found himself out of the loop.
No. Wait.
And now Mai was upset with him because of yesterday's accident. Still upset over the previous day, he tried to find her, but she was gone. Futaba told him to relax. After all, everyone knew about his confession a month ago. After school, Kunimi and Saakwta were working when their manager introduced Koga as a new employee. Both were shocked to see each other. Later, Koga asked Saakwta to fake date her, explaining that she would be embarrassed if her classmates found out the truth. Saakwta reluctantly agreed. That night, after a bath, he was excited about the idea of pretending to date Koga. As he was about to head to bed, Kaide praised Mai's new ad. The doorbell rang, and to his surprise, it was Mai standing outside. Mai sat on Saakwta's bed, eyes narrowed as he sat on the floor, guilt hanging heavy in the air. She demanded the truth about Koga, wanting to understand the mess she had walked in on. Saakwta confessed, explaining how Koga had used the same excuse Kaide did when she refused to go to school. Mai, surprisingly, let him off the hook. Understanding Koga's issues mirrored Kaide's. She handed him a dress for Kaide, and when they gave it to her, Kaide smiled, feeling more confident and warmer toward Mai. Saakwta thanked Mai, and she left with a promise to make it up to her later. Mai asked about his date with Koga, but Saakwta reassured her that his heart was hers. On the date with Koga, he dropped the bomb that he didn't have a smartphone, shocking her. They still had a surprisingly good time, with Koga enjoying herself more than she expected. Afterward, Koga showed Saakwta a photo of her nerdy past, explaining how she reinvented herself to fit in. Saakwta urged her to embrace her true self, but Koga snapped at him. Just then, they spotted a classmate searching for a lost keychain. Koga found it, and Saakwta admired her kindness. The next day, Koga caught a cold after falling into the sea while looking for the keychain. She confessed her fear of being shunned by her friends if they found her in the nurse's office. Saakwta felt a pang of pity for her situation. After school, Saakwta chatted with Mai on the phone, swapping stories about their day. The next morning, he met up with Futaba and pushed her to confess her feelings to Kunimi, but she shot him down. At work, Kunimi broke the news Koga's senior had been spreading vile rumors about her, calling her a whore. Saakwta was furious and promised to put the senior in his place. The next day, when Saakwta caught up with Koga, the gossip was worse than ever. He tried to block it out and talk to her, but their senior showed up, spewing more insults. This time, Saakwta didn't hold back. After a heated exchange, he landed a solid kick to the senior's face, embarrassing him in front of everyone. Saakwta yelled that he was still a virgin, and they both ran off laughing. Koga thanked him for standing up for her, and they shared a heartfelt conversation. Saakwta offered her friendship, but Koga shot back, saying she'd settle for being his best friend. Later that day, Koga glanced at Mai on stage, letting out a heavy sigh. After Mai returned from her shoot, she helped Saakwta study for the exams, but he was having none of it. He couldn't focus at all, even with Mai dressed as a bunny girl helping him out. When Saakwta tried to flirt, Mai shot him down with a warning: no cheating on Koga until their fake relationship was over. To wrap things up, Saakwta and Koga planned their final date at the beach. The arrangement was simple: pretend to date until summer vacation kicked in. The day started with Kaide waking him up, reminding him that it was 18 July, the last day of school before break. After breakfast, Kaide mentioned wanting a round watermelon, and Saakwta promised to get it for her. He met Koga at the train station, where she apologized for being late because of her swimsuit under her clothes. They spent the day at the beach, eating corn, playing in the water, and building sandcastles. As the sun set, Koga thanked him for pretending to be her boyfriend and making it such an unforgettable time. They closed the chapter on their fake relationship, and Saakwta headed home. The next day, Kaide woke him up again, saying he was going to be late for school. Saakwta was confused. Summer vacation was supposed to start, but when he checked the date, it was 18 July again. Kaide mentioned the round watermelon, confirming the date had reset. At school, Saakwta went to Koga's classroom during lunch and asked her if anything weird had happened to her. Koga tilted her head, clueless, and insisted this was the first 18th of July she had experienced. He apologized and left, realizing they were stuck in a loop. He consulted the day with Futaba, who pointed out that he is a dumbass for not figuring out the situation. She told him that it was either the Laplace demon, Koga was not aware of the loop, or the other possibility is that she is lying about not being aware they are in a loop. Saakwta decided to investigate the case and continued with the day, experiencing the same events again. He again met up with Koga at the station, and they went to the beach again. They ate corn, played in the water, and built sandcastles. The events repeated exactly as before. But Saakwta tried his best to put a proper closure to this date this time. Once again, Koga told him that she was grateful for him playing as her pretend boyfriend. She thanked him for the date, and they put a closure to this fake relationship. The next day, for the third time, the loop happened again. Saakwta and Koga went to the beach again. They ate corn, played around in the sea, and built sandcastles. At the end of the day, Koga again thanked him for everything he had done for her that day. The next day, Kairi again woke him up, and Saakwta realized it was the 18th of July again, meaning this was his fourth loop. This time, he changed the plan. Instead of going to the beach, he turned the other way and took to a shrine. They walked around the town and visited vendors until they reached a shrine, where Saakwta wrote their names on a heart tablet and hung it in the shrine. Even though Koga was against this act, she let Saakwta do it. After the visit to the shrine, Saakwta and Koga went to the sightseeing location. He asked her if they should go to the beach now. Koga turned to him with a stern face and confronted him about the loop. He straight away got to the point and told her that even after 1,000 or million times, no matter how many times she rolled the dice to get her desired outcome, her lies would never become reality. This meant that he was never going to fall in love with her, even if she kept repeating the same loop again and again. Koga burst out in tears and confessed that her feelings for him had built up to the point where she couldn't stop herself. She burst out in tears and confessed her love to him. Saakwta remained firm about his feelings for Mai, so Koga had no other choice but to give up on him. The next day, when Saakwta woke up, he saw Kaede watching the news, where it was announced that the Japanese team had won the nationals in football. Saakwta looked at the date, and it was the 27th of June, the same day when Mai and Saakwta started dating. He happily went to school and met up with Mai. He confessed again, and when she didn't give him a reply, he told her that he will give up on her if she doesn't give him a proper reply. Mai accepted his confession and agreed to go out with him. This time, she kissed him on the cheek instead of missing him with an egg roll. Saakwta went out of the classroom and met up with Koga, who held him responsible that her friendship with Reina had now gotten twisted. They laughed, and Koga expressed her happiness in having Saakwta as her friend. The future changed a lot, and Koga made new friends this time. On a rainy day, while Saakwta and Mai were walking back home, they noticed a girl crouching down near a kitten. Saakwta decided to take it, but the other girl told him that she wanted to adopt it. She introduced herself as Shoko Makinohara, which shocked Saakwta as he looked at her. Saakwta was thrown into confusion when he realized Shoko Makinohara was the same girl he'd met on the beach a year ago, the girl he'd once had a crush on before Mai. The memories of their first meeting flooded his mind, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Shoko had been visiting him daily to play with his new cat, Hayate, and they had formed a strange bond. But now, something about her presence seemed out of place. At school, Saakwta discussed his growing concern with Futaba, who was equally shocked. They were both puzzled by the mystery. Shoko had appeared a year ago in a high school uniform, yet in the present, she was a 7th grader. Futaba suggested a possibility. Maybe Shoko wasn't the same girl, but another one who just happened to look exactly like Saakwta's old crush. It wasn't impossible. As Futaba pointed out, there were at least 3 people in the world who shared the same face. A festival was on the horizon, and as Saakwta worked at the cafe, he was surprised to see Mai as a customer, and they decided to make up for lost time. As they walked home together, they spotted Futaba entering an internet cafe late at night. Curious, they followed her inside, and Saakwta quickly called her from Mai's phone. He was taken aback when he heard Futaba's voice on the phone, but saw another version of her standing right in front of him, phoneless. After some awkward confusion, Futaba explained that there were 2 versions of hers coexisting at the same time. One was at home and the other was out, leading to the issue of not being able to go back. Saakwta, feeling both concerned and protective, invited Futaba to stay at his place. Mai, ever the supportive girlfriend, insisted on staying as well. That night, while Futaba took a bath, Saakwta confronted her about what was happening. Futaba revealed her theory about quantum travel. She believed that her consciousness was somehow being transmitted to another body, creating 2 versions of her. After some back and forth, they concluded that both Futabas were simply alternate versions of herself, living parallel lives. The following day, Saakwta went to the basketball court, where he found the other Futaba watching Kunimi's game. He asked her how she had fallen for him. She explained it simply. Kunimi had shared his food with her once, and that was enough to make her fall for him. Afterward, Kunimi's girlfriend confronted Saakwta visibly angry. She handed him her phone, showing him a secret account Futaba had created, where she had been posting provocative pictures of herself. Saakwta came home to find Futaba in her lab coat, cooking curry like nothing was off. They shared a quick dinner before she went to shower. Saakwta confronted her about the explicit account. Futaba admitted she'd originally intended to post a message, but it spiraled into her uploading attention-seeking pictures, all now posted by her other personality. She sighed, explaining there was no need for two versions of her anymore. The next day, Saakwta met the other Futaba, confronting her about the lewd pictures. She showed him old, innocent images, claiming they were all she had left. He tried to explain that both versions of her were just different sides of the same coin, but she snapped, angry and convinced the world didn't need two Futabas. Saakwta realized both versions were battling for dominance, each wanting the other gone. Later, as they walked home, Futaba received a message from a stalker. She panicked and asked Saakwta to delete the account, which he did. That night, Futaba insisted he stay at her place. As they talked about their first encounter, Futaba confessed she feared Saakwta would forget about her with Mai in the picture. Saakwta laughed it off, assuring her she had nothing to worry about. He picked up Futaba's phone, called Kunimi, and lied, saying Futaba needed him in a hurry. A little while later, Kunimi rolled up to Futaba's house on his trusty bike, looking both confused and mildly annoyed. Futaba burst into tears like she was auditioning for a daytime drama. Kunimi, bless his clueless heart, panicked, thinking he'd done something horribly wrong. To lighten the mood, the trio decided to channel their inner chaos gremlins and hit the beach for some midnight fireworks. They snagged a stash of sparklers and rockets, setting the sand ablaze with poorly coordinated explosions. When the fireworks died down, the trio lay on the sand, staring at the horizon as the first hints of sunrise painted the sky. Kuniimi, in a moment of brilliance, declared they should hit up the upcoming festival for a proper fireworks display. The plan was locked in, and Kunimi biked home in broad daylight, looking like a man who had been awake for 3 days straight. Futaba finally decided to make peace with her other self. She handed Saakwta her phone and told him to deliver it to her twin personality. When he opened his door, the other Futaba was already there, looking unimpressed. He handed her the phone with a vague promise to explain everything later before face-planting into bed. When Saakwta woke up, it was pouring outside, and Kaide informed him that Futaba had left to go shopping because, of course, she'd pick a rainstorm for errands. He found the other Futaba and asked if she knew where the original had gone. The other Futaba, just as clueless and cranky, suggested a spot they used to hang out. Saakwta rushed to their old classroom, drenched and barely keeping it together, only to find Futaba sitting there, staring out the window. He tried to explain everything, but exhaustion caught up with him, and he passed out dramatically like some tragic hero. When Saakwta woke up in the hospital, Mai was by his side. Futaba eventually visited him and they discussed the festival plans with Kunimi. In a bittersweet moment, Futaba called her other self, asking if they could attend the festival together. As soon as she spoke, the other Futaba disappeared, leaving just one united version of herself. At the festival, the trio rocked their yukata, blending in with the festive chaos. As the fireworks lit up the night sky, Futaba leaned into Kunimi's ear and whispered her feelings. She told him she didn't need a response. She already knew his answer. All she wanted was for him to patch things up with his girlfriend and be happy. On September 1st, Saakwta's summer vacation came to an end, and school was back in session. He'd spent most of the summer missing Mai, who had been buried in her showbiz commitments. She'd promised to spend more time with him once the second term started, and Saakwta, ever the hopeful, eagerly looked forward to seeing her. But as he wandered around the school looking for her, she was nowhere to be found. Concerned, Saakwta decided to head to Mai's apartment. Near her building, he spotted Mai pacing outside, looking unusually flustered. Relieved, he approached her, but things took a sharp turn into Weirdsville when she flat out refused to recognize him. Before Saakwta could process this plot twist, a blonde girl stomped up, loudly declaring herself to be the real Mai. A sharp heel to his foot sealed the deal. This was indeed Mai, but in her sister Toyohama's body. Back at Mai's apartment, the bizarre truth came out. Their bodies had swapped overnight. While Mai calmly pieced it together, Toyohama was spiraling, convinced it was just a fever dream. Saakwta, ever the magnet for supernatural shenanigans, accepted it as another round of adolescent syndrome's nonsense. With no immediate fix in sight, the sisters decided to live each other's lives for now, trading schedules like it was some sitcom. Toyohama, now in Mai's body, prepped for Mai's school life, and Mai, stuck in Toyohama's body, braced herself for whatever chaos awaited her in her sister's world. Saakwta, playing the role of referee, assured Toyohama that Mai's loner status at school meant flying under the radar would be easy. Conveniently, Toyohama was also a loner, so Mai wouldn't have much trouble blending in either. The next day, Saakwta dragged this chaos to Futaba, their resident genius. Futaba hit them with the hard truth. The body swap was likely triggered by Toyohama's mental state, specifically her deep-seated inferiority complex toward Mai. Later, Saakwta took Toyohama, in Mai's body, to the beach for a heart-to-heart. Between splashes in the waves and awkward pauses, she let it slip. She resented Mai. She hated always being compared to her sister's success, feeling like she was living in Mai's shadow. Saakwta, never one to sugarcoat, confronted her about her inferiority complex. She blew up, furious that he'd nailed her insecurities. When Mai arrived, Toyohama unleashed a tirade, laying bare her hatred for always being the second-place sister. Mai listened quietly, the weight of Toyohama's words sinking in, before walking away with Saakwta, leaving Toyohama to stew in her own feelings. As the days passed, the sisters continued pretending to be each other, but the strain in their relationship grew. Saakwta tried his best to mediate, but the rift seemed unfixable. Then came the breaking point. While passing by one of Mai's shoots, Saakwta saw Toyohama, in Mai's body, crumble under the pressure. She had a full-blown panic attack, unable to handle the weight of everyone's expectations. Saakwta immediately told Mai, who, despite her usual composure, looked deeply shaken. For the first time, Mai admitted that Toyohama might be right. Their mother had always compared Toyohama to Mai, piling on pressure that Mai never realized was suffocating her sister. Mai handed Saakwta her apartment keys, asking him to check on Toyohama. Before he left, she issued a strange warning. He was absolutely not to open the cabinets in her Japanese-style closet. At the apartment, Toyohama opened up to Saakwta, finally airing her fears and frustrations. Feeling lighter after their talk, she went to take a bath, leaving Saakwta alone. But curiosity got the better of him. Despite Mai's explicit warning, his hand drifted toward the forbidden cabinets, ready to discover what secrets Mai was hiding. Saakwta threw caution to the wind and opened the damn cabinet. Inside was a green box, plain and unassuming. He flipped the lid open and let out a heavy sigh when he saw what was inside. Letters, dozens of them, written by Toyohama to Mai. He muttered under his breath, wishing the two sisters would get their shit together already. Later that night, Saakwta stuck around with Toyohama to help her prep for acting like Mei by watching a horror flick. Not even 10 minutes in, the movie had her clutching the blanket, practically jumping at every little scare. She begged Saakwta to stay, saying she was too freaked out to sleep alone. But he wasn't about to get caught in that mess. He told her straight up he wasn't risking Mai's wrath by crashing at her place. When he got home, his sister Kaede was parading around in her middle school uniform. She told him she was working on building her confidence to step outside again. For once, Saakwta felt a flicker of real pride. It looked like she was finally making moves toward breaking out of her shell. Mai showed up and spotted Kaede in her uniform. She gave her a compliment, which sent Kaede running back to her room. Then she handed Saakwta a ticket to her upcoming concert gig, telling him to pass it along to her little sister. At Mai's shoot, Toyohama was in Mai's body and absolutely nailed the performance. Saakwta couldn't help but feel proud as he handed her the ticket afterward, urging her to attend the gig and see the blood, sweat, and tears Mai poured into her craft. On the way back, they bumped into Toyohama's mom, who mistook her for Mai and immediately started grilling her about where she'd been. Somehow, Toyohama dodged the interrogation like a pro. Meanwhile, Saakwta's dad popped up out of nowhere, asking about Kaede. Saakwta, ever the expert in deadpan, shut him down cold, saying they didn't need him meddling in their lives. Saakwta and Toyohama finally arrived at Mai's concert, where Mai, still in Toyohama's body, set the stage on fire. Her vocals and moves were flawless, drawing thunderous applause from the crowd. But the moment was bittersweet. After the concert, Toyohama spotted her mom in the audience, gleefully shaking hands with Mai. It hit like a sledgehammer. Her mom, usually cold and demanding, was suddenly warm and proud, but only because it wasn't her daughter standing there. That was the breaking point. Toyohama, feeling like her world had caved in, decided to end it all. She headed to the sea, ready to throw herself into the waves. Saakwta, always the one to pick up the pieces, stopped her in time. He dragged her back to Mai's apartment, where he reached for the green box he'd found earlier. Opening it, he revealed the letters Toyohama had written to Mai over the years. Toyohama was a wreck, tears spilling as she realized her big sister had cherished every single letter. Just as the weight of it all started to sink in, Mai walked in. Toyohama broke down, admitting she didn't hate Mai, She hated the expectations and the comparisons, but never her sister. Mai responded with a rare moment of softness, telling Toyohama to let herself enjoy the climb, no matter how hard it got. The sisters hugged, both apologizing for all the crap they'd put each other through. And just like that, the magic, or whatever the hell it was that caused their body swap, kicked in. They were back to normal. Saakwta met up with Futaba afterward, who explained that the cause of the swap wasn't just some random fluke. It happened because Toyohama had stopped aiming to be successful like her sister and started subconsciously wanting to become her sister. Whatever it was, Saakwta was just glad the shitstorm was over. Mai held a press conference and announced her relationship to the world. Kaide watched the news and felt proud of Mai. After the conference, Mai met up with Saakwta, who was very pleased that Mai had announced their relationship to everyone. They walked back home happily, expressing how much they loved each other. When Saakwta reached home, he found a mysterious letter in his mailbox. Upon opening it, he discovered that the sender was none other than Shoko, who had asked him to meet her on the beach where they first met. The next day, Saakwta discussed his problem with Futaba, who was now tired of hearing him rant about the adolescent syndrome. He told her about Shoko's invitation. She suggested he talk about this issue with his girlfriend Mai instead of her, as she believed Mai would be more helpful. Although Saakwta felt hesitant, he eventually told Mai about his meeting with Shoko. Mai did not get mad at him. Instead, she forgave him for wanting to meet his ex. After a brief argument, Mai and Saakwta decided to meet Shoko together. Before meeting Mai at the beach, Saakwta met with Komi, an old friend of Kaide. Komi told him about the school situation and how the girls who bullied Kaide and told her to disappear were hit by karma. The bullies were in turn bullied by the whole school and eventually stopped attending. Komi apologized for not being able to help Kaide at the time. Saakwta reassured and consoled her. After meeting Komi, Saakwta headed to the beach. He and Mai waited there for Shoko to appear, but after waiting for a long time, they decided she wasn't going to show up. Disappointed, they left and returned home. Later, Saakwta called the middle school Shoko and asked her why she hadn't been stopping by lately. She apologized and explained that she had been sick, so she wouldn't be able to visit for some time. Though Saakwta found it a bit odd, he decided to let it slide for now. Kaide made an announcement telling Saakwta that she was determined to improve herself. She created a list of goals she wanted to accomplish and revealed that her ultimate goal was to rejoin school. Saakwta praised her and suggested she start by answering the phone as a first step toward improving herself. Mai also helped Kaide overcome her fear of taking phone calls. Kaide managed to answer a call from Mai, but as soon as it ended, she fainted with a fever. She told her worried brother that she was happy to have made progress. Kaide's next step was to dress up nicely and attempt to go outside. She struggled to even step out the door, but Saakwta managed to trick her into stepping outside. She burst into tears when she realized she had overcome her fear and had stepped out of their apartment. Slowly but steadily, she improved, venturing farther and farther from home. She eventually managed to visit Mai's place and even went to parks. Despite her progress, she remained conscious of people staring at her. Saakwta, Mai, and Toyohama accompanied Kaide on a trip to the beach. Kaide was amazed by the sight of the sea. While she was playing with Saakwta, Komi appeared and called out to her. Instead of running toward her friend, Kaide hid behind Saakwta and asked him who Komi was. This confused everyone except Saakwta, who revealed that Kaide had no memories of herself of the past 2 years. Saakwta laid it all out, telling Mai and Toyohama about the storm that hit 2 years ago. One random day, Kaide woke up as a stranger. Her memories of their family wiped clean. Doctors couldn't explain it, and Saakwta's mom cracked under the pressure, leaving him to pick up the pieces. Kaide barely spoke, but Saakwta's slow and careful efforts got her to open up. Then came the bruises, mysterious, unexplained marks on her body. When he tried to tell his mom, she was too far gone to even care. That same night, Saakwta woke up in excruciating pain with a gash ripping across his chest. Doctors labeled it self-inflicted, brushing him off like a nutcase. Left in the dirt by everyone around him, Saakwta hit rock bottom and wandered to the beach where he met Shoko. She was the only one who listened without calling him crazy, giving him the push he needed to fight for Kaide. Saakwta gifted her a diary, something small but meaningful, and Kaide lit up like the sun. Slowly, she found a sliver of happiness in his care. Their parents checked out completely, leaving Kaide with Saakwta. Things got quieter, but he lost touch with Shoko and felt adrift again. In the present, Mai landed a gig outside the city, leaving Saakwta to handle Kaide. She asked about Komi, an old friend, so Saakwta handed her a book Komi had returned, saying it belonged to the old Kaide. Inside, Kaide found a note. It hit like a brick, unlocking memories she wasn't ready for. She fainted on the spot. Saakwta stayed by her side until she came around. When she woke up, he asked what she wanted. All she wanted was pudding. He got her some, no questions asked. Slowly, they worked through her fears, with counseling nudging her toward her goal of going back to school. On the big day, she froze at the gate and bolted. Saakwta chased after her, trying to convince her to at least take a look. She refused, panic written all over her face. Thinking fast, Saakwta took her somewhere special to clear her head. A zoo, Kaide lit up again, darting around like a kid on sugar until she reached the panda cage and just melted with joy. Her spirits lifted, and on the way home, Saakwta veered off course, taking her to a school at night. He figured it would be less intimidating in the dark. They walked the halls, and for the first time, Kaide looked at the school without fear. The next day, everything shifted. Kaide woke up as her old self, a serious, composed teenager. Her bubbly, childlike personality disappeared, leaving Saakwta staring at a bittersweet reality. Saakwta dragged her to the hospital to check if something was messed up. The doctor, as calm as ever, dropped the bomb. Kaide had gotten her old memories back, but had wiped out the last 2 years of her life. The years where she acted like an innocent kid. Saakwta stood there like a damn statue, watching his sister struggle to piece together what was happening. That guilt hit him like a freight train. He bolted out of the hospital, screaming into the rain like some unhinged lunatic. He ran till his legs gave out, collapsing on the pavement. His chest burned, and when he looked down, the old wounds were back, bleeding like hell. While he sat in the rain, wallowing in misery, an umbrella appeared above his head. Shoko stood there, cool and collected, like some angel of chaos ready to slap sense into him. She dragged his sorry self back home, threw him some dry clothes, and told him to take a bath. While he was in there, she pulled out Kaide's diary, the one Saakwta had given her 2 years ago. As Shoko flipped through the pages, she read about Kaide's little victories and the moments she clung to Saakwta's support. Every word was like a slap to his face, but it was the good kind, the kind that reminded him he hadn't failed her entirely. Kaide had written about wanting to overcome her fears and find her old self. Shoko's voice cut through Saakwta's guilt like a blade, reminding him that Kaide's change wasn't his fault. By morning, Shoko was gone, leaving behind silence and a smoldering heap of unresolved feelings. Saakwta tried to crawl out of his funk, but it clung to him like a bad stench. When Mai showed up, her patience ran thin the moment she saw a note from Shoko. Saakwta spilled everything, his crappy routine, his spiraling mental health, and how he'd cried himself to sleep like a broken record. Mai didn't take his pity party lightly. She snapped, telling him to stop being a coward and let her shoulder the damn burden too. Then she stormed out, leaving Saakwta with his guilt chewing at him even more. Life with the old Kaide wasn't a walk in the park. Saakwta tried to help her catch up on 2 years' worth of memories, but he felt like a clueless idiot half the time. To make matters worse, he hadn't fixed things with Mai. His pathetic routine was shaken up when Toyohama barged in, spitting fire. She tore into him for screwing up and ignoring Mai, especially on her birthday. She shoved proof in his face, and the shame hit him like a brick wall. Fueled by panic and regret, Saakwta raced to the train station and bolted straight to Mai's shooting spot. When he got there, she was nowhere to be found. Defeated, he turned around, only to find her standing there, casual as ever. Without a word, he led her to a quiet spot, far from the noise. There, Saakwta finally wished her a happy birthday and spent the night making up for his screw-ups. They hashed things out, holding on to each other like their lives depended on it. By the end of it, the storm inside Saakwta had calmed. With Mai back at his side, Kaide finding her way, and the chaos finally simmering down, life started to feel somewhat bearable again. For once, it felt like the universe had stopped kicking him in the teeth.